And speaking of that reconciliation measure that Mike just mentioned, I'd like to go ahead and bring back Congresswoman Barbara Lee. Congresswoman, you know, as the Senate right now works to get that bipartisan bill closer to the finish line, as Mike just mentioned, some of your progressive colleagues have said that they will not, in fact, vote for a bipartisan bill until a reconciliation package is also voted on by the Senate. So where do you stand on that?
Well, first, a deal is a deal. And the Speaker has said over and over again that she is not bringing up this infrastructure package, the bipartisan one, until we get the budget reconciliation. And so I believe that we will move forward. We've got to have a bill that addresses human infrastructure. For example, women are out of work. They're out of the workforce now. They need child care to be able to get back into the workforce, to be able to apply and to work on many of the jobs that the infrastructure bill will create. And so I'm confident that the Speaker is going to pull the caucus together, as she always does, and that we're going to move forward based on the agreements that were made.
But can we talk about the price tag for a minute? Because, frankly, if the Senate does have to scale back a little bit, what is your red line? Is there a number that is too small or too big to sort of get your support?
Well, I serve on the Budget Committee and the Appropriations Committee, and really it's not right now about the numbers. We want to see, and Senator Sanders negotiated with the Senate a $3.5 trillion package in terms of the budget reconciliation. And so let's see what comes over to the House. But I think it's important that we provide these investments in human beings. This pandemic has taken its toll. We have got to make sure that there's child care included, funds for child care, investments for our women, investments for our care economy. So it's extremely important that we continue working on our physical infrastructure, but also human beings are so much a part of keeping this country going. I mean, they are what makes sense in terms of investments. And so you can't have one without the other. People require the support out of this pandemic to get good paying jobs, child care, the care economy, all of the issues that we have included in the human infrastructure package. And so we've got to have both, and I believe we will get both.
And when you talk about that investment in people, part of that investment is also in access to voting. So let's talk about voting rights for just a minute, because Attorney General Merrick Garland wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post marking the anniversary of the Voting Rights Act by urging Congress to act again to protect the right to vote. Now, Congresswoman, this comes as two sources tell us here at NBC News that Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer told Democratic senators there will, in fact, be votes on federal legislation before the August recess. What is your confidence in the Senate getting this through? Do you think that's possible and possible by August?
Well, Senator Schumer and others are involved in the negotiations in the Senate, and it's a must-do. First of all, I was born and raised in Texas, in El Paso, Texas, and I remember the days of the poll tax. Access to the ballot has got to be easy. What they're trying to do in these states, they're trying to take away, suppress the vote for African Americans, people of color, senior citizens, the disabled, young people. This is a threat on our democracy. We have a constitutional right to vote, and so I'm glad Senator Schumer said it's going to happen. We have to pass H.R. 1 and get this dark money out of politics and out of elections, and we have to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, H.R. 4. We have to have both, and so I hope he does bring forth the bill in August as quickly as possible, because we have to stop voter suppression and we have to allow everyone their constitutional right to vote. And right now, states are trying to take us back, quite frankly, to the days of Jim Crow.
And Congresswoman, I mean, when we talk about the investment in people and access to the ballot, secure housing, safe, fair housing is also a critical piece of this. So just before I let you go, can we discuss briefly the CDC extending the eviction moratorium? Because you tweeted that this is a huge victory, but you also say it's only a temporary solution. So what steps do you believe must be taken right now to not only help renters, but also help landlords beyond this eviction moratorium?
Sure. Let me say that I think that the Biden administration heard our plea, our cry on behalf of the 11 million people who could have been evicted. And I want to thank him and the Speaker for that. Also, I have to salute Congresswoman Cori Bush and Progressive Caucus, who had been fighting for weeks, probably over a month, to try to raise this to the president's attention. And so we have to make sure that people are not evicted, because more homelessness means more transmission of the virus. First of all, people deserve the dignity and the respect of having a clean and safe home to live in. And so while this is a stopgap measure, we have to pass legislation. Congresswoman Maxine Waters has a bill to extend the moratorium, and then we must get back to developing an affordable housing strategy that recognizes that housing is a basic human right. So we've got this immediate reprieve, but we've got to understand that we're going to get to another deadline. And so we have to pass legislation to make sure that people don't have to risk and be anxious and be nervous about being thrown out on the streets.
And I have to say, this is probably the only issue as a reporter that I've covered where when you talk to local precincts, they say, we actually have the money. We have the money to help the families. But when you talk to the families, they're saying it's almost impossible to get the money into their hands, to get them into their checking accounts in time. So I appreciate your... Yeah.
We're focused on that $46 billion that's out there to get the money to people, to the landlords, and to try to eliminate the bureaucracy and try to make sure that people have access to these funds as quickly as possible. You know, this was a lot of money, and many of our cities and counties weren't quite prepared with an infrastructure. And so we need to make sure that the money gets out and gets out quickly. So that's part of what we're all doing right now.
Yeah, that's right. People's lives are depending on it. Congresswoman Lee, I thank you so much for your time, your expertise, and your perspective. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.